Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
David Ireland is an Irish playwright with a reputation for writing hard-hitting drama such as The Fifth Step, Ulster American and Cypress Avenue. But director Max Elton is reviving a very different play by him, Most Favoured, which can be seen at Soho Theatre in London over the Christmas period. I spoke to David about the play and his influences as a writer, but first I asked him what Most Favoured is about.
Yeah, well, it's a very short play. It's about a one-night stand, the morning after a one-night stand between a woman called Mary and a man called Mike, and it's a romantic comedy, and it's very gentle, unlike most of my other work. I wrote it in 2011, I think I wrote it.
Right.
So it's quite old, and it was done as a reading at the Traverse in Edinburgh originally, and then it was put on in Edinburgh and Glasgow about 10, 11 years ago. So yeah, this is the second time it's been done, and it's a very hard play to talk about because it's very short, but there's two big twists in it. So
right.
Basically consists of a setup and then a twist, then another twist. So if you say anything about it, it sort of reveals the whole play.
Yeah, in 45 minutes. Yeah, there's only so much you can say.
When I wrote it, I was convinced it was 20 minutes, and I thought it's 20 minutes, but somehow it runs at 45 minutes, and they're not doing it slowly. Really, no. I'm pretty sure the first time it was done it was 20 minutes, and now it's 45 minutes. I don't know where that extra 25 minutes has come from.
So why is it being revived now? Did they come to you with it, or did you want to revive it?
Well, I think it's a play that Max, who's directing it, really loves it, and a lot of people really love it. When it was first on, I thought that I'd written a really hilarious comedy, and I was a bit perturbed that people weren't laughing as much as I thought they should laugh.
Like Chekhov.
So I thought, after the first performance, I thought it was a failure, but lots of people were really moved by it and really touched by it, which was an unusual response to my plays at the time. People felt very uplifted by the end, and I wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
But people the original production, people still talk about it, as a play that really had an impact on them. Liz Lockhead, a great Scottish playwright and poet, she loved it and still talks about it today.
Wow.
So yeah, it's so then Max had said he wanted to do it at the Soho, and I thought, I can't imagine that play being on again. It feels so long ago. And then I heard he did a reading of it. Yeah, there is something about it which I think is really magical and really touches people. So I thought it was worth giving the play another shot.
What did it feel like to you coming back to it after all this time?
Kind of strange. I haven't really been heavily involved in I came to see Lauren and Alex, our two actors, do on the first day of rehearsals. They did a reading, and it was very strange because it took me back to a time in my life before I had children.
Right.
I think I just met my wife when I met it, or we just got married. We were just about to get married, I think, when I was writing it, and I didn't have children, and it feels like the world was a very different place then. Yeah, it took me, it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a long, long time ago. So it was very strange. It was very sort of nostalgic to be reminded of that time, and it was, of course, my career's kind of gone a bit wild since then, and I've been working with really massively famous people, and
yeah,
it would have been unfair if you'd have told me, when I was writing that play, that I would have ended up working with people like Woody Harrelson and Martin Freeman. I would have been really taken aback.
Yeah, so you sort of coming back down to earth after working with big Hollywood stars, in a sense.
Well, a little bit. Although Lauren and Alex are both stars in their own right.
Yeah.
And they bring an audience, but yeah, it's a bit. I actually found an old interview on YouTube that I did with Dave McLennan, who originally produced the play, who's sadly dead now. He died not long after this play was produced originally. And it was funny looking back on myself with a short black beard instead of a long grey beard.
It's being marketed this as a 45-minute amuse-bouche, and it's going out at 6:30. So is the idea that people watch your play and then go straight into watch something else?
Yes, I think that's probably best. It's kind of like a light. It's not a very heavy play, and it's not very dark. But people think I'm joking when I say that because I'm known for it. But really, there's no violence in it. There's no swearing. There's no sex. Very little references to sex, considering it's about a one-night stand. So it's a very, very light play, a very gentle play. So I think it's a very nice appetizer before going to see something else.
Yeah, I've looked at some of the comments of some of our reviewers on your past plays, and Michael Quinn, our Belfast reviewer, he said on Ulster American, said the delicious conceit is to clothe brute reality in a theatrical gloss. Is that a good general comment for most of your plays?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult.
It was very complimentary as a whole.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, this is a very different play from Ulster American. I think that's the funny thing looking back on it, that I think when I was writing, that was like maybe the third or fourth play that I wrote. And I think just after that, or while I was writing this play, I was writing Cypress Avenue, which is obviously a very dark play for those that know it. And it's strange for me because I was reading a lot of Neil Simon at the time, and really I wanted to be a romantic comedy writer. That was what I wanted to do. That's what I said. That was my intention when I set out to write, that I wanted to be. I loved Neil Simon and Woody Allen and that kind of New York rom-com stuff. That's who I wanted to be. And yet somehow things took a very dark turn. Somehow I got into all this violence and baby murder and all that, and I don't really know how it happened. And I don't think I kind of went, okay, people like that, so I'll write that. I think I just kind of went down this very dark path.
Yeah.
And it felt like what I should have been writing at the time. But I would like to get back to writing lighter stuff like Most Favoured, but I don't quite know if I have it in me.
I mean, this one's actually set in Scotland, isn't it, where you spent quite a lot of time living, but most of your plays are where you come from in Northern Ireland, and there must be a wealth of stories growing up in the Troubles that have influenced your writing.
Yeah, I think like I've written a lot about the Troubles and a lot about Northern Ireland, and some people really take against that. They're kind of. I remember at the time when I started writing about it, people were a bit like, we're sick of hearing about the Troubles. We want to talk about something else. Because I think for a lot of people who live there and a lot of people who grew up there was more to life than the Troubles.
Yeah.
That's what something like Derry Girls did so well. That it showed day to day life and being a teenager and being at school, but the Troubles were in the background. But I was just kind of obsessed with it. Like even as a kid, I remember like when I was 7 years old, sitting reading the newspaper, trying to read the newspaper because I was desperate to understand, and I had so many questions about what was going on and why the IRA existed and why people were trying to kill us and why we were in such a dangerous place. And nobody could really give me any answers. So I think it was always a quest to understand it and a fascination with it. Whereas I think a lot of people who grew up and I just wanted to escape from it, whereas I didn't want to escape from it, I wanted to dive into it. But I think now I feel, I say this, I was about to say I've written everything I want to write about the Troubles and that's me done with it. But I've just finished a new play, which is partly the Troubles. I've been kind of forced into writing that. Somebody was like, you promised me this play 10 years ago, you got to deliver it. And then I've come up with an idea for another play, which is probably set during the Troubles. So maybe I'm not quite done with it. But yeah, I kind of feel like because I don't live there anymore and I haven't lived there for a long time and I don't really watch the news from there anymore, I don't really feel like I should comment on it. I don't really feel like I have the right to write about it anymore. And there's a younger generation of writers coming up, who are from there, who've got other things to say. So it's partly that, I think.
Yeah, the younger generation haven't lived through any of the Troubles, I suppose, have they? So it's not really part of their history anymore, is it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, it's because I wrote a play called Not Now that was on at the Finborough, an Oran Moor in Glasgow as well, and it was partly about the Troubles and there was a young actor in it, Matthew Blaney, who I think was in his 20s, and he said, he thought it was really interesting because he's no experience of the Troubles, but he has the experience of dealing with the generation that did grow up in the Troubles and dealing with, I don't think he was talking about specifically his parents, but, like the generation, my generation, who now have children in their 20s or, damaged, traumatized people, and they've now raised a generation. So they're dealing with it the younger generation are dealing with it in a different way.
Yeah, I suppose in a sense it's like the generation after the Second World War, their parents fought through it or were bombed during it, and the kids wanted, when the teenager was invented in the 50s, they just wanted to forget about it, didn't they?
That's right, yeah.
You've done one or two short plays, perhaps not all quite this short. Does that a format, the sort of the short, sharp, shocked, is that something that appeals to you?
Yeah, well, it was because the first thing I ever wrote was on at Moor in Glasgow, Play a Pie and a Pint, which, of course, lots of people know it. It's a very famous, it's become a very famous format where the plays are 45 minutes long, they're on at lunchtime, and people get a pie and a pint and watch the play. It's very simple. And it was massively popular, and a lot of great writers and actors had their start there. And I had my start there. So it felt natural to me. It felt like I learned how to write plays by writing 45-minute plays, because I had What the Animals Say, which was my first play that was on there, and then I wrote a play called Arguments for Terrorism that was on the next season, and then End of Hope, which eventually came to the Soho. So my first 3 or 4 plays were all at Moor. So I kind of got into the trap of writing, and I kind of used to think, right, I need some money. If I can spend a week writing a 45-minute play, I can get X amount of money for more.
Yeah.
So it was that, and it sort of became natural to write a 45-minute play, and Most Favoured was one of those plays too. So it took me a while to escape from, I've been building up, my plays have been getting longer because I wrote, like, Cypress Avenue was about an hour and 15, Ulster American was an hour and 15, Fifth Step was about an hour and 20. Now I've just finished a play, and it's, to my surprise, that's about 3 hours long.
Right.
So I wasn't intending. I don't know how it got so long, but yeah, it's my longest play yet. So yeah, I am getting, I love plays that are really good that last 3 hours, but I've never been able to write one. Like I love big epic David Hare type plays. So yeah, it's always been my aim to kind of write one of those plays. So I'm getting there.
Yeah, I suppose the danger is when you're used to writing short plays. I mean, it's quite a good discipline writing something in a short format, isn't it? Because you've got to get to the point quite quickly.
And it's good training for television as well, because television obviously is half an hour, 45 minutes. So it's a good way to approach that. But
you've got no space to sort of talk around things or to sort of, you've got to get to the point quickly. And I suppose that's part of the style that you become known for, that it's fairly intense. Yeah, I think that's probably why. I think it's, you don't have a lot of time, so you just got to get straight to the point. And I always loved reading Greek tragedies at drama school, performing in Greek tragedies, because I thought they just really get to the point. There's no messing about in Greek plays. They just, like Medea and all these great plays, and Antigone, they're really, really short. Yeah.
They're like, well, if the Greeks did it like that, why can't we do it like that?
Yeah, well, they had to write 3 tragedies and a comedy for every festival, didn't they?
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So I suppose they couldn't get too long. But apart from the Greeks, I believe you became obsessed with Shakespeare when you were very young as well, didn't you?
Yeah. No, I loved Shakespeare. Yeah, I still love Shakespeare. I'm still obsessed with Shakespeare. Yeah, I remember having this... I think I was really young. I must have been about 9 years old, and we were on holiday in Blackpool. And I remember I was allowed to stay up late, and I was running around this guest house in the living room, and I was the only kid there. And, that way, like with my children, it's like you constantly have to entertain them.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, you didn't need, you just kind of ran around like crazy. And I was running around like crazy, and I ran into this living room, and there's a TV on. And I saw Laurence Olivier as Richard III, and him looking at the camera, and he looked so bizarre.
Yeah.
And he was saying, I can smile and murder while I smile. And I was like watching it going, who is this guy? Why is he looking at me? I thought it was the most like intense thing that I've ever seen. I since found out it was actually a South Bank show documentary about Laurence Olivier that I saw years later on YouTube. And I thought, that's what I saw in that guest house. And I think since then I became totally obsessed with Richard III and Shakespeare. And I was like 9, 10 years old, and I started learning all these speeches from Richard III. Um, and yeah, so that was it. And then I got to school, and I just loved, like, I was pretty terrible at everything at school, but I was pretty good at English. And then Shakespeare was just like, I just took to it. I understood it straight away. Even when I didn't understand the words, I understood the rhythm of it. And even today, like if I'm watching a Shakespeare play and I don't know it very well, even if I don't know the language, I still get caught up in the rhythm of it. I love the rhythm of it. And I think, not that I'm anything like Shakespeare, I mean, no one is, but I think it's that thing of, like, I really love the rhythm of good dialogue, and I think that comes from Shakespeare, that almost like the rhythm, the music of it, the rhythm of it is almost more important than anything else.
Yeah. What do your parents think of you being into Shakespeare at 9 and 10 years old?
They didn't say anything. I think they thought it was a bit weird. But they kind of left me to it. They didn't, I don't think they even noticed, really.
But it must have been quite unusual. What about people that you were at school with? Did you discuss it with friends, or was that just something for you?
I just think people thought I was a bit weird. I remember the man that was to become my brother-in-law, my sister's boyfriend at the time. He was the only person. It was a very working class Belfast home, so there wasn't a lot of books around. But I remember my sister's boyfriend. He was a bit of an intellectual. He was a bit of an autodidact. So he was like, he was telling me about Shakespeare and all. I was like, well, that's Laurence Olivier, and this is what you need to know about him. And then when I told him I was interested in acting, he was like, you need to go to New York and study the method. There's this thing called the method. There's a guy called Lee Strasberg that teaches it. So he says, if you want to be an actor, you have to go to this place called RADA in London, or you have to go to New York and study the method. And he was like really into Marlon Brando and De Niro and all that. And so he introduced me to that whole world. So yeah, and it was always my dream to go to RADA, which I did apply for, but sadly I never got in.
No, he took a different route. But you kept an interest in like people like Robert De Niro, who's sort of intruded into one of your plays. But
oh yeah, that's right.
Does that the influence of those types of films, their types of films, do you think that feeds into your plays?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I was starting to write, I remember feeling like a lot of theatre and being in a lot of plays and thinking they were really boring, and thinking, this is terrible. We got this captive audience and we're just boring them. And I remember thinking, why can't theatre be exciting? And I remember like I was watching South Park a lot at the time. This was like 15, 16 years ago. Like watching South Park, and I loved Eminem, and I was like, why can't plays be like this? Why can't, and Tarantino as well, like why can't plays be as exciting as movies, you know? And I loved David Mamet, like I thought David Mamet was brilliant, and I was like, well, that's kind of the way it should be. Why don't I just write stuff like David Mamet? So that was really the beginning point, like I liked stuff with snappy dialogue and lots of swearing and people being kind of macho, I like that kind of stuff. So I didn't really care about plot. I wasn't really interested in plot. So my first few plays, I could never come up with a plot. I found that very frustrating. So I just kind of focused on writing snappy dialogue. And you're right, it was that kind of the influence of all those kind of 70s movies, all that world of, The Godfather and The Deer Hunter and all that. That was what I was trying to do.
So it was more from cinema than from like Royal Court of the 90s type shock theatre that were more your influences.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. Like when Cypress Avenue came along, people thought oh, well, this is this is in your face theatre.
Yeah.
This guy's obviously influenced by Sarah Kane and Mark Ravenhill and all that. But I didn't really know those writers. I mean, when those plays were on, I was a young actor in Scotland and I didn't know much about London theatre. I kind of thought, well, London's not interested in me, and I'm not interested in London. I'm just going to have a career in Scotland and maybe in Northern Ireland. I'm never going to have a career in London, so I never paid attention to it. But it was only after Cypress Avenue had been on and people were talking about those plays, I remember reading Anthony Neilson, who I hadn't really read before, and thinking, oh, that's amazing, that guy's brilliant. And it was only then that I started reading all those plays. I think if I'd known about those plays, I probably would have been inhibited and not tried to write Cypress Avenue.
Yeah. Do you think as you've got older, you've changed or softened, particularly since you married and got children? And do you think that's all affected you?
Well, I hate saying it because I hate that sort of thing of, mellowing, but sadly it's true. I probably have. I think I certainly have changed the past few years, and so my work has changed with it. And I think also work has probably become less important to me. I think I wanted to be like the biggest playwright and, the most successful and have everybody talking about me. And now I don't really care about that anymore, I just, like you say, when you get married and you have children, things change for some people anyway. And work seems less important to me, I just want to make sure a play is good and people are entertained by it and they don't feel like they've wasted their money, And I guess I would like to, it's sort of like I'm nearly 50. It sort of feels a bit inappropriate to still be an enfant terrible at this age, Like I kind of feel I'm a bit more repulsed by violence. I mean, I don't know if I could watch Cypress Avenue myself now. And some of the dialogue in Ulster American, I'd be a bit like, oh, that's a bit much, My mother used to come, my early plays, my mother used to come and see them, and she used to go, oh, you don't need all that swearing, you don't need all that. And I used to think, oh, Mom, don't be so square. And I've become like her, and I'm like, yeah, she's right. I don't need all that swearing.
Yeah, we all become like our parents eventually, don't we? As much as we resist.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
So do you think there's a family drama going to appear at some point?
I don't know. I'm sure at some point. I really don't know. I seem to be writing about marriage more. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping that another gentle romantic comedy will come into my head, like Most Favoured. But so far, even though I'm mellowing, the stuff is still quite dark and intense and almost sort of Bergman-esque. With hopefully a bit more humour than Ingmar Bergman. But yeah, sort of intense psychodramas seem to be what I'm writing at the minute. But yes, but I would love to write another gentle comedy, yeah.
I saw somewhere you said you hate musicals.
Yeah, I'd say that's broadly. I think hate might be a strong word. I'm sure there are musicals I would go and see and really enjoy. I'm sure I've seen movie musicals I've liked. I mean, I love Singing in the Rain. I just don't. I have, when I go to the theatre, I like to see 2 to 3 people just sitting talking. I like dialogue. When somebody starts singing, it's sort of like, oh, why are they ruining it by singing? Somebody said a musical is when somebody ruins a play every 15 minutes, and I tend to agree with that. But I'm I'm sure that I will see a musical someday and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, the music's supposed to come. It's said when the emotion gets too much for just pure dialogue, then they break into song. It shouldn't just be just entertainment. Yeah. It should actually be part of the emotional drive of the scene. Yeah, well,
Neil Simon said that his realization when he was writing musicals was that he was, as a writer not writing musicals, he was building towards a climax, but actually you're writing a musical, the song is the climax.
Yeah. So you're not going to write a musical anytime soon?
Well, I don't want to say no, because I might get some exciting offer that if people, this might put them off offering it to me. So, I mean, I wouldn't, it's funny you say that, because when I was sort of starting out as a writer, I used to say yes to everything, because partly out of economic necessity, but also because I thought it was good to kind of push your boundaries and do things that you're not comfortable in. And recently, because I've been a bit more successful, I can pick and choose. So I tend to only do things now that I'm comfortable with and that I want to do. But sometimes it's good to kind of not have a choice and do things you don't want to do, because you can learn something and push yourself outside your comfort zone. So maybe I should try to write a musical just to learn something and push myself outside my comfort zone, you know?
Yeah.
You know.
I recommend it. It's a good thing to do. So this is an older piece, you said. You're not writing a musical at the moment. So have you got anything else? You said there is another piece. So what else have you got that you can talk about?
Well, it's really, I'm trying to not write to commission anymore, although that's hard. I'm trying to just kind of write for myself, and then when I'm happy with a play, send it out to people. Which was always my ambition. I remember, like, when I meant to meet Stephen Ray for the first time, like, when he commissioned me to write Sadie. This was like for Field Day. This was like 10, 15 years ago. And he said to me at the end of the meeting, he said, "Listen, I'm not going to give you a commission." I was like panicking. I was like, what? Because, you know, Brian Friel never took a commission. He always said to me, "I'll just write you a play and then you can pay me if you like the play." And I was sitting there thinking, no, I need money. I need the commission. And I sort of said that to him, and he was like, "All right, that's fine then, I'll commission you." But I always thought, it would be good to get to the level of, like, you know, Friel or Pinter or any of those guys. They didn't get commissioned. They just wrote and then theatres put them on. So that's what I was trying to do. But it's harder to pull that off, you know, because I found theatres don't really like to... They like to have a say during the process of when you're writing it. The theatre producers tend not to just have a play delivered to them, you know. So I'm trying to sort of not write specifically for theatres and just write for myself. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I've written 2 plays which aren't attached to any theatre. I'm just sort of mulling them over and thinking about it. I'm thinking, will I release these into the world, or will I just keep them to myself in my laptop? So we'll see.
Are you finding it more difficult to get new work, unknown work, into theatres at the moment? With, you know, theatres are struggling a bit at the moment.
To be honest, not really, because I think with you know, with the success of The Fifth Step as well, people are sort of open to taking work from me, you know. So it's not harder, but certainly people, well, I've been told that people are less willing to take risks at the minute, you know. Everybody's being a little bit cautious.
Yeah.
But I haven't directly felt that myself.
Right. I suppose if you're finishing a play and handing it to them rather than going to them for money to develop it, then that helps us better as well, doesn't it?
Well, you'd think so.
That was playwright David Ireland, whose play Most Favoured will run at Soho Theatre in London, directed by Max Elton and starring Lauren Lyle and Alexander Arnold, from the 11th of December 2025 to the 24th of January 2026. For more information and tickets, see www.sohotheatre.com.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.